Priya Sharma was the perfect bride. Arjun Patel was the proud groom. But on the very day they were meant to marry in Canada, Priya's biggest secret was exposed, a fake degree that unraveled her entire life. Within 72 hours, she would be found dead in a river, and the wedding that promised love became the center of a shocking true crime mystery. Welcome to Narrated Mysteries, uncovering lies, betrayal, and the chilling stories people tried to bury. Brampton, Ontario, was buzzing with excitement. The Patel family had spared no expense in preparing for Arjun's wedding, a grand event that would draw relatives from across Canada and overseas. Guests filled the decorated banquet hall, the air thick with the scent of flowers and spices. Everyone admired the bride-to-be, Priya Sharma, a young woman who had arrived from India just 2 years earlier and quickly made a name for herself in the community. She carried herself with confidence, dressed in designer outfits, and spoke about her achievements with ease. Her claims of holding a prestigious master's degree from one of India's top universities impressed many, giving the impression that she was intelligent, hardworking, and destined for success. To those watching from the outside, she seemed like the perfect match for Arjun, who came from a respected business family known for their real estate ventures. The excitement around the marriage was not only about the union of two people, but also about the merging of two reputations. For Arjun's family, it was a matter of pride to welcome a highly educated daughter-in-law. For Priya, it was her chance to step into a life of stability and influence. Photographers captured every moment, from the decorated cars pulling up to the hall to the lavish jewelry that glimmered on Priya's arms and neck. Guests whispered about the fortune spent on the wedding, calling it one of the most extravagant celebrations the community had seen in years. No one could have imagined that beneath the sparkle and celebration lay carefully hidden lies. Priya's past, crafted and polished like the gold bangle she wore, was about to come under the harshest spotlight. The wedding day, meant to seal her future, would instead become the stage for her downfall. Priya's rise in Canada had been swift, almost too perfect to question. Within weeks of arriving, she presented herself as a driven young woman eager to build a future. She enrolled in community activities, volunteered at local events, and attended networking gatherings where she spoke confidently about her academic background. According to her, she had earned a master's degree in business administration from a prestigious Indian university and had been at the top of her class. The way she spoke about economic theories and corporate management impressed many, even though most never bothered to verify the details. In a community where educational qualifications were seen as a measure of respect, Priya's supposed degree became her ticket into the right circles. Soon, she secured a position at a private college in Brampton, handling administrative tasks that gave her visibility. Colleagues described her as ambitious and charming, someone who always looked for ways to impress superiors. She hinted that she was considering pursuing a PhD and often shared stories about multinational companies in India that had sought her expertise. These stories elevated her status and built the image of a woman destined for bigger things. For Arjun's family, her background appeared to align perfectly with their expectations. A bride with brains, beauty, and ambition was rare, and Priya seemed to embody all three. As her engagement to Arjun was finalized, Priya basked in the attention. Invitations poured in for dinners and social gatherings, with people eager to know the young woman who would soon marry into the Patel family. Behind her polished smile, Priya seemed to enjoy the growing admiration. To outsiders, she appeared flawless, an immigrant success story unfolding before their eyes. Yet beneath the layers of respectability, cracks were already forming, cracks no one had noticed just yet. The Patel family had been proud of their choice, but in the week leading up to the wedding, an uneasiness began to grow. It started when Arjun's cousin, Rahul, casually browsed the alumni records of the prestigious university Priya claimed to have graduated from. He had no intention of uncovering anything serious, but curiosity made him type her name into the online portal. To his surprise, nothing appeared. Thinking it might be a spelling error, he tried variations of her name, yet each search came back empty. At first, He dismissed it as a technical glitch, but a small voice inside him urged him to dig deeper. Rahul quietly reached out to a contact in India, an old friend who worked in education administration. Within a day, the friend confirmed there was no record of Priya ever having studied at that university. The news unsettled Rahul. He knew weddings carried high stakes, not only for the couple, but also for the family's honor and reputation. Unsure how to proceed, he began cross-checking Priya's claims. Her certificates looked authentic, but the seals seemed slightly unusual. Dates on her transcripts did not align with the university's academic calendar. Even the formatting of certain documents raised questions once he compared them with verified samples online. Rahul decided to keep his suspicions to himself for the moment. He watched Priya closely at pre-wedding functions, noticing how she quickly brushed off questions about her time at university. When relatives asked about classmates or professors, she gave vague responses, often steering the conversation in another direction. Her poise, once seen as confidence, now appeared calculated. Rahul realized he might be uncovering more than just a minor inconsistency. What he had stumbled upon threatened to shatter the very foundation of the marriage about to take place. Rahul's doubts grew too heavy to ignore, and with only days left before the wedding, he made a bold decision. He contacted a private investigator in India, someone known for handling sensitive family matters discreetly. The request was simple: verify Priya Sharma's educational history and provide official confirmation. Within hours, the investigator began tracing her supposed enrollment at the prestigious university she so often boasted about. It did not take long for the truth to surface. Priya's name had never appeared on any admission list, exam record, or graduation roll. There was no trace of her as a student. Digging deeper, the investigator discovered something even more alarming. Priya's degree was part of a widespread black market operation thriving in several Indian cities. This underground network specialized in creating forged diplomas and transcripts that looked almost identical to authentic documents. For a hefty fee, clients could buy their way into jobs, immigration approvals, and marriages that hinged on academic credibility. Priya had been one of many who turned to this syndicate, purchasing a fabricated academic identity to secure her future in Canada. The investigator gathered copies of records and testimonies from university officials to back his findings. When he sent the report to Rahul, the weight of the revelation was overwhelming. It was no longer a matter of pride or small deception. It was outright fraud. The cousin now faced a moral dilemma: expose Priya and risk humiliating both families, or stay silent and allow the marriage to go forward on a lie. The Patel family's reputation, the lavish preparations, and even the groom's happiness were all at stake. But one thing was certain: this secret, once revealed, would unleash consequences no one could control. The morning of the wedding arrived with all the grandeur expected of such an occasion. The banquet hall was transformed into a dazzling spectacle, draped in red and gold, with floral arrangements covering every corner. Guests in vibrant attire filled the space. Music echoed through the air, and photographers rushed to capture every moment. For outsiders, it looked like the perfect union, but beneath the surface, the Patel family carried a secret that threatened to destroy everything. Rahul had shared the investigators' findings with Arjun's parents the night before. The evidence was undeniable. Priya's degree was a forgery. The family spent hours debating what to do. Canceling the wedding meant public humiliation, wasted money, and damaging gossip that would ripple through the community. Allowing the ceremony to go forward meant embracing a lie and tying their son's future to someone who had deceived them from the beginning. Torn between honor and pragmatism, they decided the truth had to come out, no matter the cost. Their plan was to confront Priya publicly before the vows, ensuring that no one could accuse them of hiding the scandal. As the sacred rituals began, guests admired Priya in her bridal lehenga, unaware of the storm about to unfold. Priya smiled for the cameras, her hands adorned with intricate henna, while Arjun waited calmly at the mandip. Yet in the shadows of the hall, members of the groom's family whispered nervously, clutching the documents that exposed her deception. Every drumbeat and every chant seemed to bring them closer to the moment of revelation. The Patel family knew once the announcement was made, nothing would be the same again. The joyous atmosphere would collapse in seconds, and the wedding everyone had anticipated for months would turn into a scandal remembered for years. The atmosphere inside the hall shifted in an instant. Just as the rituals prepared to move forward, Arjun's father rose from his seat, his expression stern. The music faltered as he raised his hand to stop the proceedings. Murmurs rippled through the guests, confused by the interruption. Then, in a clear and unshaking voice, he announced that the wedding could not continue. All eyes turned toward him as he revealed the truth, that Priya's degree was forged, her background a lie, and her credibility shattered. Gasps filled the hall, followed by stunned silence. The bride, moments ago the center of admiration, now stood frozen in disbelief. Priya's carefully crafted image began to unravel before hundreds of witnesses. Her relatives tried to intervene, insisting there must be a mistake, but Arjun's father held up the investigator's report, declaring that the family would not allow their son to marry someone who had deceived them so thoroughly. Guests whispered and pulled out their phones, recording the dramatic scene. Within minutes, Priya's humiliation was no longer confined to the decorated hall. It was being broadcast online through shaky videos and hurried captions. The celebration that had been planned for months dissolved into chaos. Some guests left in shock, unwilling to be associated with the scandal. Others stayed, fascinated by the unfolding drama. Priya's jewelry sparkled under the stage lights, but her expression betrayed fear and shame. The man she was supposed to marry avoided her gaze, his silence only amplifying her isolation. By the end of the night, the grand hall was nearly empty. The floral decorations, the lavish banquet, and the music suddenly felt hollow, remnants of a celebration that never happened. Priya, stripped of her dignity in public, walked out into the night knowing her life in Canada would never be the same again. By the next morning, the scandal had spread far beyond the walls of the wedding hall. Videos of the confrontation circulated across social media, each clip captioned with phrases like fake degree bride and wedding exposed. Within hours, Priya's name was trending locally, and strangers across Canada were dissecting the footage as if they knew her personally. The images of her standing stunned in bridal attire, her head lowered as accusations rang out, became the defining snapshot of the event. What had been planned as the proudest day of her life now existed as a viral humiliation. Her relatives tried to contain the damage, but the story had already taken on a life of its own. Local gossip spread faster than facts, with rumors claiming Priya had scammed multiple men before, or that she had lied about more than just her degree. The truth no longer mattered. In the public's eye, she was a fraud who had manipulated her way into a wealthy family's good graces. Employers, colleagues, and neighbors saw the videos too, and the shame quickly bled into every corner of her personal and professional life. Priya stayed hidden at a relative's home for the day, but the phone calls and messages never stopped. Former acquaintances reached out with pity or disdain, while strangers hurled insults. The college where she worked placed her under immediate suspension, pending an investigation. The future she had so carefully constructed collapsed like a house of cards. The Patel family, meanwhile, faced their own share of whispers, but they carried the relief of having avoided a marriage built on lies. For Priya, however, there was no relief, only a sense of isolation and dread. The scandal had marked her, and escaping it seemed impossible. That evening, after a day of silence and shame, Priya vanished. Her relatives claimed she had stepped out for some air and never returned. At first, no one panicked. Many assumed she had gone to stay with a friend or sought refuge from the relentless attention. But as hours stretched into the night, concern turned into alarm. Her jewelry from the wedding remained neatly packed in a box. Her passport lay untouched in a drawer, and even her phone was left behind. It was as though she had walked away from her life with nothing but the clothes she wore. The police were notified, though the initial response was slow. Investigators suggested she might have fled voluntarily, overwhelmed by the public humiliation. Still, the details felt unusual. Brides abandoned at the altar did not normally leave without a trace. Her disappearance stirred speculation among neighbors and relatives. Some whispered she had run back to India, while others suggested she was hiding to avoid arrest for fraud. Meanwhile, social media fueled the mystery. Posts titled "Missing Fake Degree Bride" spread rapidly, mocking her even in her absence. Instead of sympathy, her disappearance was treated like a continuation of the scandal, with memes and jokes circulating widely. Privately, the Patel family hoped the matter would fade now that Priya was gone. But Rahul sensed something darker. He replayed the footage of her final moments in the hall, noting the way she looked around as if searching for an escape. He wondered whether Priya feared exposure alone, or if she feared someone else watching her collapse. By the time the second night passed with no sign of her, the case shifted from gossip to a formal missing persons investigation. And soon, the disappearance would spiral into something far more sinister. 3 days after Priya's disappearance, the search ended in tragedy. Early in the morning, fishermen along the Credit River spotted something unusual drifting near the bank. As they approached, their worst fears were confirmed. It was a body. Police were called immediately, and within hours, the remains were identified as Priya Sharma. The young woman who had once dreamed of a glittering life in Canada now lay lifeless, her story ending in cold, murky water. The discovery sent shockwaves through the community. What had begun as a scandal over a fake degree had escalated into a possible homicide. The autopsy revealed details that ruled out suicide. Priya had suffered blunt force trauma to the head before entering the water, and there were signs of struggle. Investigators concluded she had been attacked, her death carefully staged to look like she had drowned. News outlets seized the story, framing it as a cautionary tale that blended deceit, humiliation, and violence. Headlines screamed of a bride exposed on her wedding day, only to end up dead within 72 hours. Public opinion shifted once more. Some who had mocked her now voiced pity, while others speculated whether her lies had caught up with her in the most brutal way. The Patel family, already under scrutiny, faced new suspicion. Rumors circulated that they had taken revenge to protect their honor, silencing her permanently. Others whispered of darker forces at play, pointing to the shadowy networks that sold Priya her fake degree. Theories multiplied, but evidence remained scarce. For investigators, the task was now clear: trace Priya's final movements and uncover who had the most to gain from her death. The scandal had transformed into a chilling murder case, and the hunt for answers had only just begun. The investigation into Priya's death opened up a tangled web of suspects and motives. At the center were the Patels, whose canceled wedding had been publicly humiliating. Many in the community believed they had the strongest reason to silence Priya. Investigators questioned Arjun, his parents, and even Rahul, the cousin who had uncovered the truth. Each denied involvement, insisting they had exposed her fraud but would never go so far as to take her life. Still, whispers of honor killing lingered, fueled by speculation that the family wanted to erase the stain she had left on their reputation. At the same time, detectives widened their scope to Priya's professional and personal life. Her employers confirmed that her suspension was pending investigation into her credentials. Some colleagues admitted she had been ambitious to the point of arrogance, creating jealousy and resentment. Police considered whether someone from her workplace might have sought revenge or tried to distance themselves from her disgrace by silencing her completely. The most chilling lead, however, came from India. Through cooperation with authorities abroad, investigators uncovered more evidence linking Priya to the black market degree syndicate. The operation was known for producing flawless forgeries and had deep connections to criminal networks. Priya's sudden exposure and public downfall might have placed her in a dangerous position. If she had threatened to reveal their activities or demand protection, the syndicate had every reason to eliminate her before she could damage their business. Despite the many theories, no single suspect stood out. Priya's death remained an enigma, with too many people who might have wanted her gone. Each new lead seemed to pull the investigation in a different direction, leaving the question unanswered. Who had silenced Priya Sharma, and why? A breakthrough came when detectives obtained security camera footage from a building near the wedding hall. The grainy video showed Priya leaving late that night, not in despair or haste as many had assumed, but calmly walking alongside a man. He was dressed in dark clothing, his face partially hidden by a cap, and he carried a small bag. The two appeared to exchange brief words before disappearing into the shadows. This was the last confirmed sighting of Priya alive. Investigators worked to identify the man, running the footage through recognition software and cross-checking guest lists. After weeks of effort, they discovered he was not a wedding guest at all. His name surfaced during background checks in India, a fixer linked to the very black market syndicate that had sold Priya her fake degree. Known for arranging documents and handling clients who grew problematic, his appearance alongside her changed the entire direction of the case. Authorities pieced together a disturbing theory. Priya may have reached out to the fixer after her public exposure, either to demand protection from the fallout or to blackmail the network into giving her money in exchange for silence. With her reputation in ruins, she may have viewed the syndicate as her last source of leverage. But in the world of organized fraud, threats carried deadly consequences. The timeline now suggested Priya had not simply been a victim of humiliation, but of calculated silencing. Her association with the fixer, captured on camera, hinted that the syndicate had intervened swiftly to ensure she never revealed their operations. For investigators, this discovery shifted suspicion away from the Patel family and toward a hidden criminal network with global reach. The scandal of a fake degree had escalated into a chilling conspiracy that cost Priya her life. Priya's death left scars that stretched across 2 continents. In Canada, the community that had once admired her now spoke of her story in hushed tones, using it as a cautionary tale about lies, ambition, and the cost of chasing status at any price. The Patel family, though never formally charged, carried the shadow of suspicion. Every social gathering brought whispers of whether they had truly been innocent or whether their honor had been preserved at a far greater cost. Arjun, once celebrated as a groom-to-be, withdrew from public life, avoiding questions and choosing silence over explanation. In India, investigators uncovered fragments of the syndicate Priya had relied on, but the network proved difficult to dismantle. Arrests were made of low-level agents, yet the masterminds remained elusive. The market for forged degrees continued to thrive, feeding the dreams of those desperate for opportunities abroad. Priya had become one more victim of a machine that valued profit over lives, her story fading into the long list of tragedies tied to fraud and exploitation. For those who had known her personally, the memory was even more painful. Colleagues recalled her ambition, wondering how much of her confidence had been genuine and how much was performance. Relatives in India grieved quietly, caught between shame and sorrow. Her name lived on in online articles and videos, the fake degree bride, forever etched into digital memory. The unanswered questions lingered. Did Priya intend to rebuild her life honestly after exposure? Or was she planning a new deception when she reached out to the fixer? Was her death the result of ruthless criminals silencing a liability, or something closer to home that would never be proven? What began as a wedding celebration ended as a mystery, leaving behind a chilling reminder. Lies can be deadly, and truth often surfaces too late.